Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, the John Campea Show podcast, coming from right here in our quaint little studio. I'm, of course, your host, John Campea. I'm joined in studio today by Ray Ora.
Hey, what's up, everyone?
Jonathan Voitkos here.
2 more games to win.
And most importantly, a little bit of a Los Angeles Dodgers fan there. You guys are here. Thank you so much for being here, making our little show part of your day. And here's how our show's going to go. We're going to start off by talking about a few predetermined topics. Then in the second part of the show, we're going to take your live comments and questions. If you have a thought, theory, opinion, or question you'd like us to address, and as long as we deem it appropriate to be addressed on the show, go ahead and fire it on into our tip link at www.streamelements.com/johncampea/tip. And here's the good news about the tip link. If you're listening to our podcast feed on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, by the way, thank you for subscribing to our podcast feed. Or if you're watching this video a little bit later in the day when we're not live, the good news is this tip link is good 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So if it's like 2 o'clock in the morning, you can still send in a question and we'll just get around to addressing it on the next episode. All right, guys. With that down, let's get into it, shall we? And start off with this. You know, one of the big pops in movies the last couple of years was, of course, Andrew Garfield and, of course, Tobey Maguire showing up in Spider-Man No Way Home. Now, ever since then, a lot of people have been saying, and rumors going around, that they're going to bring Andrew Garfield back. Some rumors saying he's going to come back into the Sony Spider-Verse. Some people saying he's going to come back into the Marvel Spider-Verse. Some people saying they're going to bring him back in like Avengers Doomsday or Secret Wars, since they're going to try to put as many people in there as possible. Well, Andrew Garfield has kind of implied that he'd be willing to come back. And now in a new interview, he's doubling down, saying he's willing to come back under the right circumstances, of course, which is what every actor says, to come back to play Spider-Man again. This is what Andrew Garfield said in a recent interview. This is coming to us from Cinema Blend. I think what it would take is a great idea, a great concept, something that is surprising and odd and fun, joyful. It has to be worthwhile. I think we had such a great time on that last one, talking about Spider-Man No Way Home, that you want to just go, okay, leave it. It was great. It worked. It was a risk, and it really, really worked. All right. So you guys remember leading into Spider-Man No Way Home, even though reports surfaced a year before the movie came out that he was going to be in it, even though a video clip of him sitting in the spider suit against a green screen came out, and even though there were some pictures that a certain YouTuber may have put out there thinking that they were fake, turned out they were real, he kept denying that he was going to be in it, right? Kept denying that he was going to be in it. Not in it, not in it, not in it. And of course he was. Well, now he's being more forthright. He's saying, you know what? You know, if it's the right idea, if it's a great concept, if it'll be fun, I'm there. Now, first of all, it should be mentioned that whenever any actor is asked, would you do X role? They always say the same thing. Well, as long as it was a great idea, and like they all say the same thing. The bottom line here, the message that Andrew Garfield is giving is, I'm willing to come back. I'm willing to put on the Spider-Man suit again. Now, the problem with the people who think he might pop up in the Sony side is under the terms of their agreement, Sony can't do a live action Spider-Man in movies while Spider-Man is also in live action over at Marvel, right? Sony has licensed out Spider-Man to Marvel so they can use him in the MCU. But a part of that agreement is Marvel's like, okay, if we're going to do that though, you can't also make live action Spider-Man because that's going to water down what we're doing. So if Andrew Garfield, and this is a big if, were to return, it would have to be in the MCU. At least as things stand, it would have to be in the MCU. Now, of course, I don't think we're going to see him pop up in, say, Spider-Man 4, which we now know is coming out. What did we say, July of 2026?
July 20, yeah.
Yep. So Spider-Man 4 officially now coming in July of 2026. I don't think it'll be in there. I don't even think it'll be in Doomsday.
No.
Even though they're saying they're going to bring a lot of MCU characters in, I don't even think it'll be Doomsday. I think if Andrew Garfield comes back, and again, huge if, I think we're looking at Secret Wars.
That's where it seems to fit for me.
Yeah, and I think for most people, right? And by the way, if Andrew Garfield comes back, I think Tobey Maguire also comes back.
Yeah,
Because remember what Andrew Garfield said about Spider-Man No Way Home? When the idea was first brought up, he said, listen, it's all up to Tobey. I'll go where Tobey leads. That's what Andrew Garfield says. If Tobey goes, I'll go. I go where Tobey goes. So I think if we see Andrew Garfield in Secret Wars, I think we'll also see Tobey Maguire. But will we? I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
But I want to just touch for a second on the last part of that quote again for a minute. He said, I think we had such a great time on that last one that you just want to go, okay, leave it. It was great. It worked. It was a risk, and it really, really worked. See, the reason I've always kind of been inclined to believe he won't come back again was that everybody for years, after The Amazing Spider-Man 3 got canceled, said Andrew Garfield deserves to have his send-off. Remember that?
Yep.
Everybody was saying, Andrew Garfield deserves to have his send-off. We need to bring him back one more time to have his send-off. Well, that's what Spider-Man No Way Home was. He came in, made a huge pop, and had a great, him and Tobey, arms around each other, because, they were stabbed, but, arms around each other, and then going off, it was chef's kiss. It was the great send-off. But that's what it was. It was the send-off. So I've always kind of been inclined to believe that that's how he's going to look and he's not going to come back, but it certainly does sound like it's possible.
It feels like he wants a bigger story than that, though, than just a cameo. Like, he says it has to be worth it. Like, I don't know how hard it's going to be difficult to top that moment.
Very difficult.
I mean, the redemption when he saved Zendaya,
when he saved MJ.
Yeah, that was such a sweet.
That was a great moment.
Sweet throwback moment that kind of hit you out of nowhere.
By the way, did you see that YouTube video going around? Somebody took that scene where Andrew Garfield saves Tom Holland's MJ, but they set it to the Deadpool and Wolverine Madonna Like a Prayer music.
Oh, God. Oh, no, tell me this.
Pretty good.
Also, that moment is so sweet, but you can't tell me none of you all thought of the sound of MJ's head hitting the thing every time you watch that.
I don't even think it was her head. I think it was her spine.
I think it was, or her neck,
It
or
was like the
yeah,
like that scene was great. I don't know if they can top it. How would they top that, John? Do you see any way they could top it by just a cameo? I think no, something bigger than that.
I don't think. Look, I don't know that Andrew Garfield. I mean, one of the things about Andrew Garfield, unlike a lot of actors, he is truly egoless, right? I mean, all actors need to have an ego to some degree. You have to have it, but he seems very, very ego-less. So when I think he says it has to be surprising and odd and fun and worthwhile, I don't think he's necessarily saying it's got to be great and surprising and odd and fun for me, but rather my presence there should add to the overall movie and make it something worthwhile. Because I'll tell you what, I don't think that the only dangling thread, no pun intended, the only dangling thread of Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man was the grief and the weight that he carries from not being able to save not MJ, Gwen.
Gwen, yeah.
His Gwen, right? And that one dangling thread has been addressed. So I don't think for him you can top it unless he finally fights an alien.
Right.
Because he's, I want to fight an alien. So I don't know. Maybe they give him a Venom moment. I don't know, but I really don't see how you top it. But that doesn't mean he can't be a great addition to something they do in Secret Wars. So I don't know. I'm still going to guess he's not going to be in there, but he's certainly implying that it is possible. Guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? Andrew Garfield, again, is reaffirming that, hey, I'm open to coming back to play Spider-Man some more. Dude is now in his 40s. Ready for a 40s Spider-Man? I say yes, but I don't think he will. Maybe you think he will. Whatever you guys think, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's talk about this. You know what? Despite the fact that I'm looking forward to it every week, I always forget Penguin is on Sundays because I'm busy watching football.
Last night I was telling Ray, I was looking at YouTube and then it's like 9 o'clock. I'm like, Penguin. Yeah, listen, I got so wrapped up in the euphoria of how about them Cowboys getting beat yet again. Most expensive quarterback in NFL history throwing 2 interceptions.
How about them Cowboys? Anyway, that's an aside. But I get so wrapped up in football on Sundays that it's like, okay, I think I'm going to maybe watch a couple little YouTube videos and then get ready for bed. And then Anna's like, oh, don't forget Penguin's on. I'm like, holy crap, that's right. So I pop on Penguin. What I think is the best show on TV right now, the best show airing currently. Because, the Succession is done.
Yeah,
House of the Dragon isn't airing right now. Right. It's in between seasons. All that Shogun is currently in between seasons, but airing right now, I think Penguin's the best thing on TV. It's just amazing. And one of the incredible things about this series is that every week it's something new. They throw in a new dimension. They throw in a new angle. They throw in a new layer, right? And this episode, and by the way, I am going to talk a little bit in some spoilery details about last night's episode. So we're going to pop up the spoiler warning here.
Here it comes.
So there's the spoiler warning. So just you guys can mute your TV, phone, computer, tablet, whatever you're watching the show on today. You can mute it, and then once this spoiler alarm goes off, then it's safe to unmute your computer. Okay, we good?
And take your subtitles off.
Oh yeah, and turn off your subtitles. That's good. That's a good catch. Okay, we good? I've given you fair warning. Okay. So for the first time in the series, they actually had a bit of a time jump. And they established that right away by snow falling. That, by the way, that was a brilliant visual cue. They didn't have to do anything else in the show except do a wide establishing shot with there being snow. As soon as that happened, everybody in the audience understands how much, not sure, but some time has passed.
Right. And if you didn't get that, there was definitely some exposition there.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. But it was unnecessary, right? Like they set it up beautifully. Penguin and Vic have got their underground operation all up and running now, all that kind of stuff. And they set up where the world is at right now. The Maroni and Gigante merger is complete. Dude's even living in her house now, making up food. By the way, how great was this scene?
Oh, yeah.
Just a simple scene of two amazingly rich characters, literally just in a kitchen making food and talking. Yeah. And I was riveted.
And you know what was good about that scene too is that the whole time I'm thinking like Maroni is really dealing with the death of his family well. And then he had that moment where he's just like, and he just like holds it. And I'm like,
I can't remember what his wife's name was. Let's call her Jeff. I don't know.
My name is Jeff.
But when she goes, Jeff was right. And he goes, Jeff was right.
Yeah.
And then without saying anything, Clancy Brown, one of the best in the business. Clancy Brown, when he says, yeah, Jeff was right, without then saying another word, just using facial expressions and tension, you knew everything that was going through his head.
Yeah.
She told me not to trust Oz. She told me we shouldn't go and do this. And then re-suffering again all of his loss without saying a word. It was beautiful. Clancy Brown, the man. Anyway. So, like, that scene was absolutely spectacular. The setting up and how they doing the drug drops, and he's in the mist, and then the golden meeting. What are they called? The golden assembly, the golden meeting.
Summit?
The golden summit. I think that was it.
Yeah, wasn't showers. It was definitely summit.
It's definitely... That would be another episode.
Yeah.
That's episode 7, The Penguin, Golden Shower.
The peak.
Maybe even started the episode with that. I'm not quite sure what we walked in on.
But yeah, again, that was going to be it. Oh, that's right. So that scene was amazing because Penguin is at his best lying when he's telling the truth. He will deceive you the best when he actually tells the truth. And he did that with Sophia. Remember a couple of episodes ago? He told her the truth in order to deceive her.
Right.
All right, I did it. Was it worth it? Yeah, it was worth it. A guy like me got nothing. I got the respect and I got blah, blah. So yeah, he's not what you wanted to hear, but I'm sorry. You know, he told the truth to deceive her. He's like such a master manipulator. And then he employs that same thing again in the Golden Summit. All right, everything you heard about me is true. I'm a hustler. I killed Falcone's kid.
Right.
I did, like, he's just telling the truth in a way to sucker them all into doing what he wants them to do. And it's so good. It's so good the way he does that. But here's the brilliance of this show. Because it's one thing to have a show like Penguin or whatever and have your main character be really good. You got to have, to be a truly elite level show, you got to have great supporting characters. And everything from Maroni to Sophia to the Doctor, who, by the way, I am starting to buy more and more into the theory that the Doctor is a figment of her imagination.
Well, that makes that opening.
Because did you notice
awkward.
again in this sequence, nobody else sees him.
Yeah.
She just opens the door and says, so-and-so will see you out, but so-and-so didn't come in the room.
The only thing is she walked out of the room and he was still in it and he was like adjusting his clothes and all that, but that could still be her
But again, he was alone.
Yeah.
She was alone with him, right?
I haven't seen him with anyone else.
So one of our viewers wrote in and said, my theory is that he's a figment of her imagination, a byproduct of bliss, if you will. Man, that was great. But Vic, we got to talk about Vic.
Hey, Vic.
Hey, kid, you and me now, we're in it now. So like the other week, we got that brilliant scene where we got to, through Vic's eyes, see the ending of the Batman when the dams were broken and the waters flooded Gotham and his family was killed. And we start to understand him more. Then he has that come to Jesus moment where he makes the decision. I'm not going to go with my girlfriend. I'm going to drive my car in there and I'm going to save him. But this week was his turning point. Vic actually in cold blood murders a dude. Like, it was one thing last week for him to get involved, pull the guy off the fence and punch him. Okay, that's a baby step. But he straight up understands without even Penguin telling him to do it. Like when Penguin says to him, so we got a problem? No, it's I'll take care of it. Right? Yeah. And then he actually pulls the gun and shoots the guy in the throat, kind of turning it. And that now, I think that's Vic's point of no return.
Because you could justify it and say, well, he felt he didn't have a choice. He had to protect, but that's just it.
Yeah, but
you're justifying killing this person to protect your people. So now every other kill is going to be that way.
He did have a choice. He had a choice to.
I'm saying.
I'm backing up what you're saying is that everybody who said he didn't have a choice. Yes, he did. He had the choice to walk away.
He chose to do that.
He chose to, you know what? I want this life. I'm loyal to Oz. So I'm just going to straight up kill this guy. Mm-hmm. I'm just going to kill him. I'm not even going to bring him to Oz for Oz to deal with him. I'm going to take care of it. And he shoots him and murders him in cold blood. And then the line coming from Oz.
Mm-hmm.
It gets easier.
Yeah.
That line was chilling and haunting. And you know what? I actually think Vic is the only character in this show that Oz is ever honest with. Like, I only ever feel we're seeing the real, Oswald Cobb when he's just with Vic.
Right.
And I'm sure there's still some manipulation there too and everything, but then when he shoots him, and I love the fact that the showrunners didn't let the audience off easy by just boom, and then the camera just stays on Vic. Going, oh no, I'm sorry, why did you make me do that? And then leave. No. They turned the camera on Squid, that was his name?
Squid.
To see him bullet wound in throat, bleeding out, spitting. The showrunners made us experience the horror of what Vic just did.
Right.
They could have done it clean. The camera could have just cut to Vic, had Vic turn towards the camera and go bang.
Yeah.
And hear the guy go, oh, and then just kept the camera on Vic and go, why did you make me do that? And then leave. And we would have known he murdered him. But they don't let us off. They put the camera on him to see the horror of what he did, the gravity of what he did. That was, and what Vic witnessed himself doing. And I love that they had a little callback to it later when him still noticing a drop of blood on his shoe.
Right. Yeah.
And he wants to rub that out because he wants to rub out what he did.
Yeah.
But now it's like there's no going back. There's no going back.
Yeah.
And at some point, Vic is going to say, my name is now, I'm no longer my dad's son. I'm no longer Victor Aguilar. Call me Zaz. I'm Victor Zaz. Or something like that, right? And then, oh my goodness, that ending shot as he's dancing with Oz's mom, and then you see Sophia just
And did you
broken.
notice you actually heard a thump? So the power went on, he went to check on her, and he was trying to turn the music off. She goes, leave it. And there's this like clunk, 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 clunk. And he looks like, oh, I better check that thump. But then he's like, what could it be? And then she's like, dance with me. But then that thump was Sophia.
Yeah. And by the way, how good was that scene when mom is talking to Oz and she goes, this thing I got.
Yeah.
It takes and it don't give back.
Yeah.
And you don't let me become one of those. She's telling his son to murder her.
She wanted to be euthanized, basically.
And it's the only person in the world Oz actually loves.
Right.
And that pain. Okay, Ma, I'll do it. I promise. You know, it's just, oh, that scene was so good. And then like she's dancing with him at the end.
The whole time I'm like, oh God, I hope they're not setting up some situation where it's like she thinks Vic is like her husband, and she like goes to kiss him or something, and Oz walks in. It's like awkward, but I'm glad it didn't go that direction. Did you notice? Remember a few episodes back where we said, oh, these little character building moments where like Oz is crossing the street and the car is like honking at him, and he's like, just go, and he's like, it was like a throwaway scene, but it just kind of adds to the character. Did you notice when Vic was going to Oz and he was trying to fix the what do you call it, the generator, and he goes, his name is Squid, and Oz has a little chuckle because it's like Squid, another animal, like me, I'm Penguin, like what, it's like these little things like that.
I mean, it's just they layer things and layer things and layer things, and this thing is just so good, and I'm loving it. And the only thing that sucks is I think there's only 2 episodes left. Well, that's the only thing that sucks. And they got a lot of ground to cover.
I do feel like this is the first episode where I'm like, and this is really a bad thing because it's still an excellent show, like top tier, where I'm like, okay, this is starting to have a bit of a feel of Batman or Rogue's Gallery to it. Just the way that now Sophia dresses like this, and this is how she shows up to do her her business.
To do her evil.
It's almost like she's kind of like a supervillain now or something, like turning into one. So it had an echo of that a little bit. I'm like, this is the first time I felt like this has a little bit more of a comic book pool this episode, but not in any bad way at all.
And here's another neat thing too. Speaking of Sophia, Anne missed one of the episodes. So before, like the other day, she went back and watched the episode where Sophia and Oz went to the club to sell Bliss, right? And I just remember going, man, I forgot how cool it was actually seeing Sophia and Oz working together. And like, honestly, like if Sophia and Oz continued to work together, they would rule Gotham. They would take over Gotham and all that kind of stuff. But I still think right now, I could be totally wrong, but I'm thinking that she dies. I'm thinking Sophia doesn't make it out of the show, but who knows? We'll find out. Guys, question is for you. And we can now take down the spoilers alert. Question is for you. What did you guys think of the episode? I loved it. I cannot wait for the final 2. Whatever you guys think, jump down into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right. With that down, guys, let's move on to this, shall we? One of the shows that a lot of people are very interested in is Daredevil Born Again. Now, I got to admit, my enthusiasm for Marvel Disney Plus shows has taken a real hit. Agatha all along has been quite good, and it's been kind of renewing my enthusiasm about the potential of Marvel on Disney Plus. And they've certainly done some great things, but they've certainly done some terrible things as well. And there's not a lot they have coming out on Disney Plus that I'm particularly enthusiastic about. But Born Again is definitely one of them. Now, one of the things that makes this iteration of Daredevil so great is, of course, Kingpin and Daredevil and their dynamic. Well, Charlie Cox just recently made a comment basically saying that if you're thinking you're going to get a lot of Daredevil and Kingpin on screen together in Born Again, you're actually not. You're not going to get the two of them on screen much. Now, that may sound disappointing, but Charlie Cox actually gives a really good explanation as to why that is and why it makes sense. He said this: with these characters, you have to always feel like were they to cross paths, they would fight to the death. It would be hugely explosive. So you have to, in the writing of a show, in the construction of it, you have to limit the amount of time they can be together, or you have to give them a real reason for them not to be together. You know, when I first heard that he was saying that we're not going to be on screen much together, my first thought was, well, that's a wasted opportunity. But then when he said that, it's like, you know what? You're absolutely right. You have to feel like, one of the great things about the show when it was on Netflix was that you have to feel like the animosity and the tension was that if they do get into the same room together, only one of them is probably walking out alive. Mm-hmm. And if you don't feel that way, then they're not doing a good job setting up the intensity between them. But if you do set up the intensity between them properly, that's what it would feel like. And now, we already know they set up kind of a minor truce because we saw that in the trailer. And he does talk about that in there. He goes, they set up a very minor, very fragile truce to a degree. And we already saw in one of the trailers that they do have a dinner meeting and all that kind of stuff. So that's good. But I have to admit that I'm one of those people that just shifted. I went from going, no, they're not going to be on screen a lot together, to, you know what? It's good that you don't, because here's why. If you do have them on screen a lot together, it waters the tension down. It waters down the tension. You got to feel that when they do come together on screen, you got to feel that explosion, right? You got to feel that intensity explosion. Like this, like the roof's about to come off. Mm-hmm. And if you're in the room together too much in the show, it can take away from that narrative climax, you know? And so without having seen the show, I got to say, I think Charlie Cox is right on the money with what he said.
You want that build up. Like,
yes,
they used to do it in wrestling where when Ultimate Warrior was supposed to face Hogan, they rarely put them in the ring together. They'll have like their little interviews and you'll see their little scenes, but putting them together in the ring was like a once in every, I don't even know if they even did promos together, but they want to build that tension, like you said. Yeah. And you said about this series, how'd you word it? You're a little worried of the series, or like you're...
I was apprehensive, a little apprehensive because of the track record of Marvel on Disney Plus.
I believe this series has been shown more care from Marvel than any other series. Yeah. And they have a blueprint of what worked. I mean, what people loved from the first one.
With the Netflix part.
And all they have to do is build on that. Not do a copy thing, but Marvel could build on that violence, that drama that the Netflix.
Well, especially now that they've dipped their toes into the R-rated stuff with Deadpool and things like that.
It shows their care from bringing back a lot of the characters people loved by the same actors. So I may have a little bit more faith in this series than usual, is what I'm saying. Well, just a little bit more, but who knows?
I definitely do, because they've already made it clear that these shows are now show run, and they have like a coda, a book, right, a show Bible that they develop for these shows. Here's my thing: there was a lot of carryover from what do you call it?
Netflix?
No, from the previous CEO. Why am I? I keep wanting to say paycheck, Chapek.
Yeah.
From the Chapek days, my theory on these massive rewrites was
they basically went back to square one and reshot the show.
My feeling on that is that Feige was like, this cannot be yet another carryover from the Chapek days. This is going to be mine. And that's what those huge rewrites were.
Also remember, Marvel executives have come out and said explicitly, when we were under Bob Chapek, the rule was crank out as much as you can, as fast as you can. And so when Chapek was finally gone and Bob Iger came back in and Kevin Feige got his authority back, he was like, okay, we were under this mandate that we had to just crank out Daredevil. And I did not like what we were making, but I didn't have the power to say stop. Now I do. And what's the first thing he did? He stopped it. They were almost done. Yeah. They were almost done shooting the series. And Kevin Feige said, it's not good enough.
This is an Iger Feige thing now.
Yeah. Now this is no longer a Chapek thing where I'm mandated. We just got to rush it through and spit it out. I can actually make the thing I want now that I recognize it's not going the way I want. And they went back to square one. That's what Ray was saying when he's saying that the amount of care they put into this. They doubled down on the budget. They went right into it, redid it from scratch. And now because they did that, if Daredevil Born Again sucks ass, they have no excuses.
Yeah, there is nothing.
Right? They got no excuses now because
like
they actually went back and remade it.
Right.
So
yeah, now it's got to be good. But people are liking, Agatha.
So I mean, Blade must be excellent then.
Oh, good. Blade is going to be the best.
Blade's going to be the
Rotten Tomato
man.
score. Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be a Blade, Andrew Garfield team up.
All right, guys. Question is for you. What do you think about this? Charlie Cox is going to break a lot of hearts saying that you're not actually going to get a lot of Kingpin and Daredevil together on screen. But I think his explanation is perfect. That's actually the way it should be. Whatever you guys think about it, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's talk about this. Venom, The Last Dance.
Yes, Venom.
Venom! We are Venom! I'm the biggest Venom defender you're going to find. I love the first movie. I enjoyed the second one, not nearly as good as the first one, but I still enjoyed the second one. I know a lot of other people didn't. I don't care. I did. So it was with a lot of enthusiasm and high expectations that I went in to see Venom 3. It was up there amongst some of my most anticipated movies of the year.
Oh, it definitely was. You want it, yeah. For
I talked about it a lot. I was so excited about it. And man, it's bad. It is a bad film. And I say that as a Venom defender, as somebody who's liked the other films, loved Tom Hardy in this role. I still really liked, even though I didn't like the movie, I still really liked the dynamic between Eddie and Venom. That part worked well. Some really good action stuff in the third act of the film, but otherwise it's just a very poorly constructed, very poorly written, very poorly executed film. That kind of left me out. Now, they were saying leading into it, the early box office projections was this movie could make somewhere between $70 and $80 million on its opening weekend. Now, then, just before the movie came out, those expectations dropped a little bit, and then they said 65 to 75 million, which still would have been fine. But word of mouth got out fast about the lack of quality of this film. Because even though it's a lot of money for a lot of other films, Venom 3 made $51 million on its opening weekend. Remember, its initial projection was 70 to 80 and made 50. And if you want to put it into perspective, here's the thing. The first Venom movie made $80 million opening weekend. Went on to make like $800 million. Because fans loved it and because of its success, a lot of people turned out opening weekend for Venom Let There Be Carnage.
Yeah, and people love Carnage too. So
yeah, and people love Carnage. So it made $90 million opening weekend. Now, because it wasn't loved as much as the first Venom, it went on to make like $500 million. So a lot less than the first one, but still $500 million. And now Venom, Till Death Do Them Part, The Last Dance, it drops significantly from the last one and has an opening weekend of $51 million. And here's the thing. I don't think it's going to do well on its second weekend either.
20 mil? 18 mil?
What's that?
20, 18 mil?
I think maybe about 20. I think it's going to take a 60+% drop. I don't think it's going to take like a 70% drop.
Yeah.
But I think it'll take like a 60+% drop on its second weekend. And I don't even think this is going to make one Black Adam.
Oh.
I don't even think this movie's going to make one Black Adam.
Dang.
It's not rewatchable. Word of mouth isn't going to be strong for it like it was for some of the previous ones. And yeah, I mean, it's just not good.
This is a great example. We've talked about it before of a great trailer for a bad movie. Because I personally love that. I really wasn't. I'm not really big on the Venom movies, but I actually was pretty hyped from the trailers from this movie.
I like the trailers for this one, especially in the casino one.
Oh yeah,
When he was on
the
the slot machine, Eddie, I need more money.
he's like, I think you broke my foot.
That is still one of the best lines in the movie. Eddie, I need more money. It's like one of the best lines in the movie. Listen, the movie has its moments, right? It's not Morbius. It's not Madam Web. It's better than Joker 2.
Yeah.
Well,
Oh my God. Can you imagine saying that 5 months ago? Yeah, Venom 3, going to be much better than Joker 2.
And
What?
Venom 3, not even that great.
And it's not even that great. But I mean, because it has its moments. It does. It has its moments. But so I don't think it's like the worst film of the year or anything like that. It's just not good. But this leads to a bigger problem for Sony. Because there are suckers like me who, when Morbius came out, and it was awful. Another movie with a great trailer. Morbius trailers were great. And I went in very enthusiastic for it, and that movie sucked. But even then, suckers like me would go, it's still fine. It's still fine. This is the company that gave us Venom 1 and Venom 2 and did Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse and Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse and made the original Tobey Maguire Spider-Man and Spider-Man 2, one of the greatest comic book movies ever made. Like, yeah, okay, Morbius sucked, but I still believe they can still make this work. Okay. That was Madam Web. Or that was Morbius.
Mm-hmm.
Then came Madam Web. Another movie that I thought, you know what? The concept for this film sounds interesting. Maybe it'll be pretty good.
Yeah.
I mean, it's turned off by a few things in the trailer, but I still thought, you know what? The potential is here to be pretty good. I was a little bit nervous when I found out that the screenwriters were the same guys who wrote Morbius, but I'm like, you know what? Might be all right.
They've turned a new leaf.
It was not all right. We were not okay with Madam Web. Madam Web, one of literally the worst films ever made. It's so awful. But still, suckers like me were going, all is not lost. Yes, Morbius was bad. Yes, Madam Web was terrible. But you know what? It's still the company that made Venom 1 and Venom 2, and still the company that made, Andrew Garfield Spider, whatever, right? And I still believe we still got Venom 3 coming.
And they seem to respect the Venom property.
Oh, yes, huge. Yeah, I mean, they know it's a cash cow for them, right? So we still got Venom 3. All will be well. All will be well. Well, then I went to go see Venom 3. And by the way, this dance scene with Mrs. Chen should have been a highlight of the movie.
Oh.
Should have been a highlight of the movie because Mrs. Chen being in the movie should have had a purpose. And if in the midst of a purpose for her being in there, they had this great dance number, I think it would have been great. There was literally no purpose for Mrs. Chen. She literally just shows up. Hi, Eddie. Hi, Mrs. Chen. Let's go to my room and have a dance. Okay. Dance, dance, dance. Oh, gotta leave now. Okay. It's like that. Wait, so why was Mrs. Chen there?
It's almost like they shot that just to use it in the trailer, but then they kept it in the movie.
It totally felt like it was just a trailer shot.
Yeah.
And like, I like seeing Mrs. Chen in the movie, but you literally, if you're a good writer, you come up with a purpose for her to be there. There was no purpose. Anyway, so here we are now after Venom 3. And it's 3 strikes. Morbius was garbage. Madam Web was one of the worst films I've ever seen. Venom 3, not that bad, but another bad one. Sony, you no longer have suckers like me. I'm no longer one of your suckers. That is sat there and say, nope, Morbius is terrible, but I still believe they can make great stuff. Madam Web was terrible, but I still believe they can make great stuff. Now you blew Venom. And I now have, remember, I said this before, this isn't a choice I'm making. This is just what's naturally happening in my head. I said, if Venom 3 isn't good, and I believed it would be good, but I said, if Venom 3 isn't good, I don't know that I'm going to have any anticipation left for Kraven.
The problem is that they're releasing in the same year, so there's recency bias
There's
now.
a lot of recency bias. And I have been excited about Kraven. I like the trailer for Kraven. I love Ricky Tikki Tacky. Aaron Taylor Johnson.
Yeah.
I love Aaron Taylor Johnson being in the role. I love that it's going to be hardcore rated R. I love all that stuff. But then came Morbius, which was the gut shot. Then came Madam Web, which was then the uppercut. Then came Venom 3, which was the knee to the balls. And I'm down for the count.
I can imagine Sony coming back with a strong Kraven.
Oh God! I mean, look,
that's just the way Sony would be.
I hope. Listen, I have much more faith in the Kraven writers than the writers that we had for Morbius and Madam Web. I have much more faith in the Kraven director, but the problem is, you even now took a property that you had some success with Venom, and even that you shit in the ditch, right? So now I'm like, I just don't naturally have any enthusiasm left for Kraven. I'm still going to go see it immediately. I still hope it's amazing. It still has the chance to be amazing. But I now have no faith in it.
I haven't seen Venom 3 yet. I mean, from everyone's reviews and stuff, I'm kind of hesitant, maybe waiting for it to be on streaming. But I can't believe the drop-off. So it really is that big of a drop-off from the first two?
I think so. It depends on who you ask. Because remember, there are people out there who don't like the first two. So they may look at the third one and say it's not much of a drop-off. I do really enjoy the first two. And to me, it was a big drop-off. And that's the thing that kind of really bumps me out. And here's the problem. The problem is that where does Sony go from here?
Exactly.
Right? Like what's left? You've lost all the goodwill from the audience. Nobody actually believes it. Sony is now in the position DC was in before they finally pulled the plug on the DCEU. Right? It's like nobody believes in it anymore.
That's what it feels like.
Nobody has trust in it anymore. Like, they're not going to give up the Spider-Man rights, but I mean, what are they going to do? What movies are they going to make now to keep the Spider-Man rights?
Yeah, and this is actually just like, you're right, it's just like DCU because they had those blunders, and then honestly, The Flash was not bad, but people were so done, no one saw it. And Kraven, this is going to be the real tragedy. Kraven's going to be good, and no one's going to go see it.
I hope, first of all, I hope that you're right that it is good. But if nobody goes to see it, they got nobody to blame but themselves.
Yeah. What's so unfortunate is this is like Tom Hardy's last movie, but also how shocked we were after we saw Venom 1. We were like, oh, Sony can exist not using Spider-Man with these other characters.
Yeah.
And he was the big dog. There was
so much potential.
He was the big dog out of all of them. And then they really didn't show enough care. And it sounds like they didn't show enough care. Why would other people care about the lesser guys like Kraven, who people don't know about? You know what I mean? I do agree with you. Maybe it spells bad news for Kraven in box office.
Yeah, I think it does.
100% it does.
Now maybe it's awesome, and then hopefully word of mouth gets out about it that it's good. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think we're going to look what happened to Transformers 1. Everybody just lost faith in the Transformers.
Yeah.
Now, granted, their first trailer wasn't all that great either, but no matter how good Transformers 1 was, and Transformers 1 is really good, nobody went to go see it.
Yeah.
And that might be what's happening here. Anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? I mean, Venom 3 massively underperformed from its original projections, making 70 to 80 to making 51. And again, let's keep it in perspective. There are filmmakers that would kill to have a $50 million opening weekend. I mean, there are. But this is like almost dropped in half from what the last one was. And I think the drop is going to be pretty extreme. Whatever you guys think about this, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, it's time for us to get on to the most important part of our show, which is taking your live comments and questions. But before we do, we're going to take a quick moment and thank one of the sponsors of today's episode of the John Campea Show podcast. I'm wearing them right now. The good folks at The Perfect Jean. Guys, we want to take a second to thank a sponsor of today's video, The Perfect Jean. Look, you guys know I've been talking about The Perfect Jean for a while now. I absolutely love these. They fit like a dream, they look fantastic, and they are so comfortable, you forget you're even wearing pants. We all love jeans, but look, we all also know they can be a little bit uncomfortable for the boys, but not with The Perfect Jean. These jeans fit like they were custom made, stretch like you wouldn't believe, and they look absolutely fantastic. The Perfect Jean also has a seriously massive range of sizes, everything from 26 to 50 and lengths of 26 to 38. These These have become my absolute go-to jeans whenever I'm hanging around the house or even going out for the day. And listen, the Perfect Jean isn't even just pants. They've revolutionized t-shirts as well. The Perfect Tee has just enough stretch to hide that beer belly while accentuating your arms and chest for that flawless look. My guys, it's finally time to stop crushing your balls in uncomfortable jeans by going to theperfectjean.nyc. Our listeners get 15% off your first order, plus free shipping, free returns, and free exchanges when you use the code Campea at checkout. That's 15% off for new customers at theperfectjean.nyc with the promo code Campea. And after you purchase, they'll ask you where you heard about them. Please support the John Campea Show and tell them we sent you. F your khakis and get the Perfect Jean. And thank you to our friends at the Perfect Jean for sponsoring today's episode of the John Campea Show podcast. All right, guys, with all that down, let's move on to the most important part of our show, which is your live comments and questions. Jonathan, what we got up first?
Mr. Izzy says, hello, John and crew, been following since the AMC days. I wonder if Victor in The Penguin will be the origin story of Victor Zsasz. I don't think they mentioned his last name, but if he becomes Victor Zsasz, that will be tragic. What do you guys think? I personally am still saying no.
I'm thinking yes. No, it'll be a big departure for Victor from Victor Zsasz from the other material that we've seen him and known him in. But this is a brand new thing. It seems like a very good origin story for him. So it's just a guess. We could be wrong, but I'm guessing. Jonathan's guessing no. I'm guessing yes. So, but we'll find. I'm sure by the end of episode 8 we'll know. All right, what's next?
He's teen. Mr. Izzy says...
There's a sigil on him.
Yeah. Mr. Izzy says, hey, John, I got to meet you and the crew in person at the Comedy Club in Burbank for the Ant-Man 3 discussion.
Oh, great.
Are you planning to do something like that again for any other movie? Bring forth the filthy, my good man.
I don't know. I mean, so we did these live in-person events, and they were great. They sold out. I mean, it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of effort, though. It was a lot of effort and work to pull those together. And
a lot of coordinating for the live stream on it, too.
Yeah, like massive amounts of behind-the-scenes coordination and stuff like that. So I don't know. I know our business management has been like really trying to get me to do some kind of like US-wide tour.
That's a lot of work.
Yeah, I mean, but... So what I told them, like they wanted to say, we need to set you up in St. Louis and Cleveland and New York, and you need to go here and here and here. I'm like, okay. And I said to them, I'll tell you what. I said, if you guys, saying to the business management, you do everything, you book the clubs, you set up tickets, you set up the logistics of live streaming, you set up this, you set up this, you set up this, and you set up this. You do all of that, I'm open. And I think then they realized how much work it was. And like they still say they want me to do it, and maybe it'll happen at some point, but right now I'm not really planning on it, but you never know. We'll see. All right, what's next?
Duck says, Buenas tardes. He says, I'm not trolling about the Fellowship of the Ring. I have learned this year I am someone who needs to watch analysis, etc., to fully understand and appreciate a movie. I will be doing the same for Lord of the Rings and then rewatch it. Maybe I'll like them more. So that's interesting.
Well, see, here's the thing, though. Like, the part of the thing with the subjectivity of film, and all film is subjective, just because everybody else likes something doesn't mean you need to, right?
Right.
And that's the other thing I would say to you. Because film is subjective and how it hits us all, the art hits us all in different ways. It is not your responsibility to make yourself like it. If it doesn't hit you a certain way, then it doesn't hit you a certain way. And I would suggest that if you need to do homework in order to appreciate it, then that really means it doesn't work for you. So I would just say, listen, if it didn't work for you, it didn't work for you. No big deal. That's the art. We all have films that everybody seems to love, and we don't. And we all have films that we love that everybody else seems to hate. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's normal. That's the way art should be. So I wouldn't put that onus on yourself, dude. All right, what's next?
You're just dead to us after that.
Yeah, but you're dead to us.
Just understand.
But make no mistake, you're dead to us.
Yeah. Okay, Ryan Jacob says, if Spider-Man is in Doomsday, then I think Spider-Man 4 will take place chronologically after instead of how Ant-Man was. The Nolan film also comes out a week before Spider-Man 4. Also, I think David Johnson, Andy from Romulus, would have made a great Kang. He would make a great anything. He's a great actor.
Great actor, would have played a role well. Yeah, so there's that. Yeah, I guess that's been the big question, because now we know Spider-Man 4 is coming out, what did we say, 2 months after Avengers Doomsday.
Right.
So we talked on the show the other day about, well, what does that mean for when does the movie happen? Because Ant-Man and the Wasp, Ant-Man 2, takes place before the events of Infinity War, but came out after Infinity War.
It was thought of as like an appendix.
Yeah. So is that what they're going to do with Spider-Man 4? Is Spider-Man 4 going to take place in the world of the MCU after the events of Doomsday? Or will it take place before the events of Doomsday? And I still don't know. We'll have to wait and see. All right, what's next?
Brian O'Connor says, hey, crew, what is the box office floor for Gunn's Superman film that would give you a genuine pause for concern? I do believe there's a minimum.
No, there's not. There's not. Listen, I've said this before. I will say it again. As somebody who is amazingly excited for the new Superman, it is not going to make a lot of money. And that's okay. You have to be intelligent about this, right? Like, you have to be able to look at it and say, look, DC was run into the ground. All right. It was completely run into the ground to the point that nobody was going to go see the movie. Even good movies that they would put out, like, say, Blue Beetle. That was a delightful little movie.
It was fun.
But like, people had given up on DC.
Yeah.
Nobody went to go see them anymore. They all started to tank. They have been run into the ground. That is still a reality that James Gunn and Peter Safran are going to have to deal with when they launch the new DCU. And it's going to take time. There is rehabilitation that needs to be done on their image. The main thing that Superman needs to do is be awesome. It doesn't have to make a lot of money. It doesn't have to make any money. They're smart enough to know our chances of making money on Superman are small. But if we make the movie great, then that means more people will come out to the next DC film. And if we make that one great, then more people will feel comfortable coming out and be excited about coming to the next DC film. Small-minded people think about, this movie needs to make money. Big picture people say, no. It's not about how much money this movie makes. It's about how much money the next 10 movies make. Superman will not make a ton of money. It doesn't matter how good it is. But it has to be good so that the next films can make more money. That's the position they're in. That's how broken DC is. And that's how James Gunn and Peter Safran got to fix it. All right, what's next?
We got Brian O'Connor says, is Dave Filoni actually the creative director of Star Wars? I was curious if you felt he was actually doing anything in the role. I assumed he was laying out the new groundwork for the Star Wars cinematic universe, like how Feige has done with Marvel.
No, what he did, he explained, I thought he did a great job explaining what his actual, because his new role, what's the actual, can you look up, what's his actual title now? But
Lucasfilm?
Yeah, Lucasfilm. Filoni did a great job really explaining what his new role is, which is not coming up with the stories that other filmmakers need to make.
It says
chief what? It's like
chief creative officer.
So chief creative officer, right? But Dave Filoni explained, and I think very well, that what his job is to be there as a resource for the other filmmakers who are doing their Star Wars projects to come and bounce off of him. He said, I'm not here to tell the other filmmakers what they can and can't do. I am here as a resource for them so they can come to me if they want and do that. So we'll see. I mean, we'll see how it kind of all works out. I hope it works out well. All I know is this. I still believe 100% that Dave Filoni, 5-10 years from now, is going to be a great live action director. But we still see that he's got a ways to go, because I thought Ahsoka was terrible.
Mm-hmm.
But I've got all the faith in the world and belief in Filoni. He's got the right attitude. He's got the right mindset. He's a learning machine. He's got it all lined up right. And I believe 100% he's going to be great. He's just not there yet. But yeah, so as far as his responsibilities, I think he did a great job explaining them. All right, what's next?
Brian O'Connor says, surprised to hear that the Rey film is still in production. I believe that Disney gave Filoni the title so Kennedy could deflect criticism and remain as president of Lucasfilm. There hasn't been any change. Also surprised Ridley would return to Star Wars.
Well, I'm not surprised Ridley would return to Star Wars when you consider how big the paycheck is probably going to be. And it's the highest profile thing, right?
Right.
Like it's the highest profile thing she will ever do. But no, Filoni, like a lot of people thought when they gave Filoni that, when Kathleen Kennedy gave Filoni that position, they thought, oh, really? He's in charge now. No, he's not. He's not. And by the way, he's more focused on his individual projects that he's working on too right now, which is good. That's where it should be. He is not the chief officer of the company. He's the chief creative officer, but he still answers to Kathleen Kennedy. And as he explained, he doesn't even take charge of all the other projects. He's just there as a resource to people. So, whether that changes over time, we'll find out. All right, what's next?
Suthia says, I'm a very casual Star Trek fan. I watched some episodes here and there of different series growing up. I got to say, the more I watch the Kelvin trilogy, the more I fall in love with it, mainly because of the cast and characters. Hope we see more.
Yeah, listen, the Kelvin trilogy was great. The second one was a little shaky. Khan!
After we were told it's not Khan.
Yeah, the second one is a little shaky. I still liked it, but it was a little bit shaky. But I thought 1 was really good, and I thought 3 was great. I really enjoyed it a lot.
I just wasn't big on 3. I liked the first one, and it started dropping off for me after that.
Oh, see, because I could really feel, because Simon Pegg wrote the third one. And you could really feel the Peggisms.
I guess I just got sick of being stuck on that one planet the whole time.
I can understand that. Yeah, I get that. But man, I got to tell you, I was somebody for the 2 years leading up to that first Star Trek movie coming out with Chris Pine.
Yeah.
Mocking it, saying this Star Trek is a dead franchise. There's why are you even making this movie? This is stupid. And I actually ended up really liking them. I think they're better than a lot of the other Star Trek movies. Not all of them, but I think they're better than a lot of the other ones.
Yeah, even Rob will say that the casting is just awesome for the Kelvin. He loves the casting.
I thought the casting was great. I thought it was really, really good.
Yeah.
All right, what's next?
Dad Joke says, hi, John and team. I think what makes The Penguin such a great show is we get to experience what it's like joining the mob from Vic's perspective. The tough choices, the risks and rewards. The speech Oz gave Vic in the bathroom in episode 3 was so great.
That's the thing. Somehow, some way, in this make-believe city of Gotham, they just find a way to make all the characters feel so real. And like, whether they are or not, they feel real. Right? We're watching it, and there's no disconnect. It all seems feasible. It all seems like, and here's the thing, even though these are larger than life characters, a lot of their individual conflicts seem very, they hit home a lot, right? And that's why I think it resonates with us so well. All right, what's next?
We got Beeper Yell, who says, are you aware that Wicked ends at Act 1?
Yes.
It should be called Wicked Part 1, but marketing fails to acknowledge this to us normies.
No, it should not be. That would be the biggest mistake in the world.
Yeah.
You do not call a movie. They're starting to realize you don't call a movie Part 1, because the message you send to people when you say Part 1 is, you're not getting a complete movie. You might as well wait till both of them are out and stuff like that.
Right.
Not everybody, but it would have an impact.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually very, very smart for them to just call it Wicked, not Wicked Part 1. And then when Wicked 2 comes out, then you call it Wicked Part 2. But like Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Ring comes out, you don't call it Lord of the Rings Part 1.
Oh, yeah.
Right? You don't do that. You just call it Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Ring. It's a marketing thing, but it is a smart thing. Like most movies, like Joker wasn't called Joker Part 1.
Yeah.
It was called Joker. And then when they put out the next one, they called it Joker 2. So they're just taking that naming strategy, which is the better strategy to do. So it's the right thing for them to do.
I agree. But just goes on to say, I went into Kill Bill, Deathly Hallows, and Mockingjay knowing they are two films. I don't want to be tricked into them. Well, first off, you wouldn't be tricked into them because you're being sold by the trailer. And if you like that kind of thing, you're not being tricked into it. You're going to enjoy yourself. And now there's a part 2. I mean, also, these are what you're mentioning here are established films. They're at the end of like successful string of films. You know what I mean? And then with Kill Bill, it's, well, hey, it's Quentin Tarantino. So most people know what they're getting into with Tarantino. So had they...
Well, yeah, but don't forget about Kill Bill. Remember, Kill Bill was intended to be one movie.
One film.
Right? It was made to be one... They made a movie called Kill Bill.
Yeah.
And then it was after the fact that they chopped it in half and then called it part 1
and he was opposed to that, actually. He wanted it one whole thing originally.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And he still wanted it re-released.
Yeah.
Right? But, they didn't call The Godfather Part 1. They called it The Godfather. And then they did part 2. Then you might say, well, John, that's because they didn't plan on doing a part 2. It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, you have a movie and then you have a sequel. And that's the way they're structuring it. So I think it's perfectly fine.
I remember watching the first Lord of the Rings in the theater and not knowing it was just a... And so when it ended, I was so furious.
They're just looking at over the mountains.
And even during movie club or whatever, and when we rewatched it, when the ending came, I was like, oh, it ends like that.
Dude, I remember being in the theater. I remember being in the theater multiple times watching Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Ring. And when you get Sam and Frodo standing there going, there it is.
Yeah.
Mr. Frodo.
Oh my God.
There's Mordor. La 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 la. As the credits start to roll. And I remember so many people in my theater going, what? Like you didn't understand it was 3 books.
I mean, I knew what was happening because in the trailer it said Fellowship of the Ring, Two Towers, Lord of the Rings, Return of the King. So it was like 2001, 2002, 2003. So they said it in that opening trailer, so I already knew. But a lot of people who hadn't seen that trailer didn't know.
It's just the hype of it. It reminds me of the last Spider-Verse film, the way that's shot. It's the shot that ends the film that gets you wanting.
Like, what? All right, what's next?
All right. We got Legendary Mongolian, I think it says. It says Bullseye Channel put up a top grossing movies list that did not exclude adjusted inflation, and The Exorcist was number 1. But adjusted for inflation, the number 1 was 700 mil versus like 2 billion. So how do you feel about adjusted inflation?
Adjusted inflation lists are stupid and pointless and meaningless. It shows a massive lack of understanding when you try to do adjusted for inflation. It's like, oh, okay, then why don't you adjust for everything else too? You're going to adjust for inflation? All right, we'll adjust for the other 25 variables. Adjust for the fact that when that movie came out, it didn't have streaming to compete with. Adjust when that movie came out, it didn't have to compete for disposable income with video game consoles. Adjust for inflation that when that movie came out, less than 30% of the movies that come out today came out back then. Adjust for inflation that the price of a movie ticket back then made it a lot easier for people to buy tickets and go to the movies than today. So it's harder for a movie to get people to buy tickets. Like the whole adjusted for inflation thing is so utterly stupid and short-sighted. But for some reason, it makes some people feel smart. And by the way, I'm not bagging on whoever made this video you're talking about. I'm not bagging. That can be an interesting thing for conversation. So I'm not bagging on anybody else for doing it. I'm just saying it always frustrates me when I see people who think it makes them smart to go, well, you need to adjust for inflation.
Well,
no, only if you're extremely myopic and short-sighted. Because if you want to take into account variables, then don't cherry pick one variable.
Yeah.
Bring all the variables in. And then when you realize that's impossible, then you go, then just take it at face value. So yeah, the whole adjusted for inflation thing is such a stupid rabbit hole. It's just pointless. All right, what's next?
All right, what's next says, do you think Cynthia Erivo's social media meltdown is going to hurt Wicked's box office?
A little bit.
And yeah, maybe a little bit, but it's still all I see talked about online in your sphere. And all the positive momentum it had behind it is seemingly coming to a halt. Nobody seems excited anymore. Again, but I feel like that's in that person's sphere.
Maybe in your circle and in your sphere, right? Make no mistake about it. There is still plenty of excitement and enthusiasm for Wicked out there.
Yeah.
It's just for some people like me And you guys know, for 2 years, I have been like singing the song of Wicked. For 2 years, ever since they did that first presentation of it at CinemaCon 2 years ago, I've been like on that train. I've been, guys, Ariana Grande, Cynthia Erivo, Wicked. This movie is going to be way better than you think it is. This is going to be a big movie. This is going to be a fun movie. And then they did another presentation for it at this year's CinemaCon back in April. And I'm like, oh my God, guys, this movie's going to be so good. Cynthia Erivo, God, they're going to blow your socks off because they came out on stage. Remember that, Ray? Yeah. They came out on stage and blah, and it's like, this thing's going to rule, blah, blah, blah. And then Cynthia Erivo, and again, this has, some people try to compare this situation to like with Marvel fans and Star Wars fans. No. See, when Marvel fans and Star Wars fans, I use the term loosely, by the way, fans. When Star Wars fans and Marvel fans and whatever, when they start doing a lot of shit, it's done with malice.
All right.
Right? It's done with ill intent. And I get that. What happened with Wicked was literally a fan of hers, a fan of this upcoming movie. People who are excited, not people who want to see it fail, like a lot of these people bringing their political agendas to movies are wanting something to fail. There was no malice, there was no ill intent. It was literally people who made it and shared it around that are excited for her movie and excited to see her and were cheering for her. And then she went off and attacked them. And the allegory I give is that it was like the whole mood around for Wicked for me, I'm not saying for anybody else, the whole atmosphere and mood around Wicked for me now feels like when you're at a dinner party and one of the married couples there start having a huge fight with each other, all of a sudden the atmosphere is really awkward. It's like, now it's uncomfortable. Now nobody wants to be there. It's like, and now for me, the whole discussion around Wicked is weird now. I'm not saying I'm choosing that. I'm not saying that's the way it should be. I'm not saying that's the way other people should feel. I'm just saying for me now, Cynthia Erivo made it really awkward. And now I don't want to talk about Wicked now. I'm not trying to punish any. I'm just saying for me as an individual movie fan, I'm like, now Wicked went from being this thing that I was excited about and felt joyful about and felt like there was all this positive momentum and positive energy and it felt like you're at a party.
Right.
Well, now the party's awkward. Now everybody feels weird. Now it's tense. Now I just want to go home and watch TV. You know, and that's what, now again, that's for me, and maybe it is for you too, but make no mistake about it. There is still plenty of enthusiasm out there for Wicked. And I still believe it's going to be really good. I really 100% believe it's going to be really good. And I believe Cynthia Erivo is going to be awesome in it. But she has killed the enthusiasm for some people, including me.
Yeah, there's going to be circles, obviously, that aren't even aware of this right now.
Yep, 100%. Like, big circles that don't even know about this.
Oh, that new Wicked film.
100%.
Cool. Real quick, she just did like a Target commercial, and it's like based around Wicked.
I know, I saw that. I'm like,
but now because weird. I'm watching this, she like stares down that guy and she says, I think that's my line, or I think that's my song, and starts singing. And it's fine. It meant to be innocent. But in my mind, I'm like, oh, that's yours?
Yeah.
It's just like, now it's stuck in my head.
Yeah. Okay, what's next?
Christopher Rosado says, watched a horror movie mystery marathon over the weekend at Alamo Drafthouse. The movies were Bloody Pit of Horror, The House That Dripped Blood. There's a theme here. Pieces, Ringu, and Slither. Loved House, Ringu, and Slither. Bloody Pit was so bad. It sounds like it's going to be like kitschy. Pieces was so 80s slash.
Ringu is great, which is of course the original version of The Ring. And Slither to this day remains my absolute favorite James Gunn movie. And I love a lot of his movies. I love most of his movies. I think James Gunn's amazing. But Slither still holds that spot for me. That is still my favorite movie he's done. If you guys haven't seen Slither, I highly encourage it.
Is that a horror?
It is a horror sci-fi comedy.
And was that one of his first?
That was one of his earlier films.
It's early for sure.
But it's got Elizabeth Banks. Okay. It's got Nathan Fillion. It's got Michael Rooker. It's got The guy who plays Star-Lord's grandfather
Okay.
is one of the main characters in it. It's just a really fun. Oh, and it's got from The Office, Pam.
Oh.
It's got Pam, which I guess is where they met and when then they got married after that. But yeah, it's wonderful. Slither is great. All right, what's next?
We got Baby Boy says, "Hey guys, I rewatched Nolan's Batman trilogy and Watt's Spider-Man trilogy. All great films, but it's something about Batman Begins and Spider-Man Homecoming that I feel are the best in their trilogy. What are your guys' favorite films from those films?"
I have to agree with him. I totally agree. The first one of those three sets are like my favorites. I just have to agree. It's just one of those things.
I think with Homecoming, that's my favorite. Well, obviously I love No Way Home. It's just so epic and it's so great. But as far as just like
Homecoming's the best one.
If you're gonna take out nostalgia, then Homecoming's the best.
I agree. I think Homecoming's the best one. I love all three of them.
What a surprise Vulture was, and Keaton's performance.
He was so good in that. And what was
and
the
then
other trilogy?
First Begins, Batman Begins. Now I think Dark Knight's better than Begins.
Yeah, Dark Knight is better than Batman Begins. I mean, again, it's all subjective. Just because I think that doesn't mean that you should. I really do like Batman Begins. I like it very much. I'm not so big on the third Nolan Batman film, but I still think the Dark Knight is probably the best one of the bunch. But yeah, the first one's really good.
All right, we got
all right. What's next?
Three-parter from Jai CSC says, "I liked your analogy that Netflix movies are like McDonald's burgers. If you'll humor the pivot, I feel like the TV division is slowly becoming like going to a pretty nice restaurant, ordering from a prepaid set menu. Only discovered certain dishes are now missing, dwindling legacy content. Portion sizes are pretty small, low episode counts, long waits between courses, gaps between seasons. Dessert was canceled less than 2 seasons and prepared by the rookie chefs. Ratio of quality, original series failing far behind HBO and Apple now. Probably not a perfect metaphor, but it looks like Netflix is seeing growing disdain from creators and consumers. It's only small right now, but could snowball." One thing, they just came out, Netflix, with their quarterlies, and they had a huge growth with their ad tier, which is wonderful. And honestly, it makes Netflix more money, but it also tells me people aren't willing to pay as much for Netflix.
Well, here's the thing. A lot of that growth came from people getting kicked off sharing someone else's passwords. Remember, they did the big crackdown on the password sharing, and it worked for them.
Didn't work for me.
The ads are not making as much money for them as they thought. I saw a new report that showed that Netflix is actually trailing way behind Hulu and Amazon as far as ads, which is driving, because right now supply is outpacing demand, which means the ad rates are really low right now, and they continue to go lower for Netflix. So they're not making as much money on the ad support tier as they thought. Anyway, here's the thing with Netflix. Yeah, like McDonald's, I think the more accurate comparison for Netflix is that Netflix is Walmart. Netflix is the Walmart of entertainment, particularly when it comes to their movie. You know what? Let me limit it to just talking about the movies rather than the series. They make much lower quality stuff, but they make it in great abundance, and they make it look good. Like, let's take 2 of my favorite movie stars, Ryan Reynolds, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. They did, what was it called?
Red Notice.
Red Notice, right? Piece of shit movie. Absolutely horrible. But that's the thing. Netflix doesn't care. Netflix is in the quantity game, not the quality game.
Right.
They want to make it to see, look, we always have more stuff. There's always another aisle at Walmart.
They're Jack in the Box.
They're Jack in the Box. They're
serve
Walmart.
Everything.
Yeah, they'll serve a little bit of everything. And that all that matters is that they keep showing their subscribers, look, we have something new. We have something new. We have something new. It doesn't matter if it's good. We just have something new. And so overall, they are lowering the quality of movies. Filmmakers are now recognizing it, because we talked about this last week. Like, filmmakers are now refusing to work with Netflix. They're even turning down more money.
Right. A lot more money.
A lot more money.
Not like $5 million.
No, they're like turning down what would have been an additional, like Margot Robbie just turned down what would have been an additional $70 million. People are lamenting. We got Daniel Craig saying to them, literally, Daniel Craig said to the head of Netflix, your release strategy is shit.
They're getting a bad rap for a movie stuff on the movie side.
And they
of
should,
things.
because they're shit.
But I want to bring this up. Some viewer asked about the Gundam series that Netflix did, and I just want to thank you to the viewer who asked about that and reminded me.
Did you like it?
Because I absolutely loved that series. It was like one of my favorite things that I've seen on Netflix in a long time. It's a little rough, like John, when we're watching the trailer, you said this didn't. The graphics on it is a little rough on some ends, but story-wise, I thought it was a great entry point for me.
Yeah.
In the Gundam universe.
I'm only going back to Netflix once Stranger Things comes back. It's the one streamer I don't have now.
Yeah, again, I think they do a better job with their series.
They do.
I think that, but even then, I mean, they put out so much crap, but they do a better job with their series. But their movies, they don't care about making great movies, because that's not what makes money for them. What makes money for them is just crank out the Walmart crap so people stick around. So that's it.
Yeah,
and they are overall lowering the quality of movies in general. And that is, and listen, I am a Netflix subscriber. I have been longer than almost anybody. But the reality is they are poison to movies. They are, and their goal is to kill the movie industry. And yeah, it is what it is. Anyway. All right, what's next?
Anonymous says, "Hey John, it's been 1 year since Matthew Perry died. I can't believe that.
Wow.
Are you a Friends fan? And if you are, who was your favorite character?"
I did like Friends. I wasn't like a massive, but that was a very well written show.
Joey was my favorite.
Joey was very funny. I actually think Chandler was probably my favorite. I liked his like drier sense of humor.
Between Chandler and Joey for me.
They were a great dynamic.
Yeah.
Like them as roommates were great. Remember when they got free porn?
Yeah.
that was hilarious. And it's still very difficult for me. And you know what? He was also great on The West Wing. He had a couple of episodes, Matthew Perry, where he played like a Republican lawyer. His character was great. And in the Democratic White House. And it was just, he was so good in it. And yeah, then he did that one, The Whole Nine Yards.
Oh, yeah.
That he did with Bruce Willis. I love that too. But yeah, it's hard to imagine. I still have a hard time believing he's gone. It's crazy.
I know.
All right, what's next?
The Hutch says, "It's game day."
Game day.
For him anyway. After several months, I finally got to see RRR for my 7th time at my indie theater. It plays it every month, so they make this like a monthly event. Forever the greatest theater experience ever. 300 people cheering, crying, and laughing together. Almost sounds like Rocky Horror Picture Show now at this point. Everyone must see it with a crowd. They probably do stuff during the thing, you know?
I'm still one of the only guys in the world that didn't like RRR. I didn't like it.
I do love a live theater.
But I do love a lively theater. And I'll tell you what, while I did not like the movie like at all, man, I'll tell you what,
Oscars.
at the Oscars, when they did that musical number, that was awesome. That was so much fun. And I love a good lively theater and stuff like that. So that sounds like a really good experience. All right, what's next?
Anonymous says, "Your thoughts on Juror number 2 possibly of only being released in 50 theaters?"
Yeah, it sounds like they're not giving it a full release. Look, I think the trailer is great.
I did too.
But they did not put the trailer out there anywhere. They just dropped it on YouTube and hope people would find it.
That's the one.
They have not given it much of a marketing campaign at all.
That's the one with Nicholas Hoult.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, that looks amazing.
It looks
you ain't gonna
so
see
good. And I read one guy say, this might be Clint Eastwood's best movie.
Oh, that's
I'm
the
like,
bad
what?
part.
Who's releasing it?
That's the bad part.
I'm not even
It's
sure.
Clint Eastwood.
I'm not even sure.
He traumatized me.
What?
Yeah, Clint
With what?
Eastwood movies leave an impact.
Oh, they leave you
on me
traumatized?
mentally, because a lot of them end in not the happiest way, and they affect me in a certain way that no other filmmaker does.
Now let's call it what it is. As great as that trailer looks, it does not look like it would be a $300 million movie.
Oh, was
but
it?
no, I don't know how.
Oh, okay.
No, I'm saying it doesn't look like it
No.
would make $300 million at the
Didn't
box
cost
office.
much to make that.
Oh, okay.
But I mean, I don't know. And look, let's also call it. When's the last time a Clint Eastwood movie made any real noise or any real splash at the box office?
Yeah, you're right.
He's one of the greatest filmmakers ever. I love Clint Eastwood's movies. But I kind of get where they're coming from, because Clint Eastwood movies, especially the last decade or so, certainly don't make any money. and they didn't put any real marketing budget behind it.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm disappointed, but I kind of get it. I do kind of get it. All right, what's next?
Future Man with a two-parter. Hey, John just finished Andor for the first time, and OMG, what a masterpiece it was.
It's the best thing Star Wars has ever made since the original trilogy.
The pace, the rhythm, the storytelling, the dialogue. I have nothing negative to say about this show. You're 100% right when you say this is the best thing Star Wars has put out since the original trilogy.
Yep.
Imagine if the Acolyte, Obi-Wan, or Ahsoka were made in this same way as Andor. Why can't Disney follow this obvious recipe for success? Is it just because different writers, directors? Anyway, thanks for all you do.
Because recipe does not lead to success. All right? Recipe does not lead to success. Lots of TV shows and movies have tried to take the heavier, more adult, serious tone and end up being crap. Obi-Wan, Ahsoka, and the Acolyte didn't turn out to be bad because they were lighter. No, you can make them lighter and be awesome. Mandalorian is lighter. And the first 2 seasons, at least, are awesome. You can be heavier and feel more grounded and be terrible. You can be lighter and be awesome. It's not about the formula. It's just that they didn't end up making a very good show with Obi-Wan, in my opinion. They certainly didn't end up making a very good show with Ahsoka, and they certainly didn't make a very good show with the Acolyte. But it's not because, if they just took Obi-Wan and said, well, let's just make it more grounded and grimmer, that wouldn't, if he still executed it poorly, it still would have ended up bad. Formula does not equal success. Formula does not equal quality. Execution, whatever formula you use, you approach it and you make interesting characters with fun, crisp dialogue, and you make the story interesting. You get us immersed in the narrative. You do that with comedy, drama, period piece, whatever, you can have a successful quality-wise film. You do it badly, so it's not about the formula. It's about execution. All right, what's next?
And Juror number 2 is Warner Brothers, and it was about $35 million budget.
All right, there you go.
Under the covers. Hope you are all well. I'm wrapped in my duvet as I have got COVID.
It sucks, man.
Looking for a good drama TV series to binge. Have you looked at Penguin?
Penguin is a good one. Honestly, West Wing. Go watch The West Wing.
If you want something lighter, sillier, Scrubs.
Scrubs is a great one. If you haven't seen it already.
Only Murders in the Building if you got Hulu.
Ooh, that's a good one too. But he specifically called out drama, right?
Duvet, COVID.
Yeah, I think he specifically called out drama.
Oh, drama. Yeah. Sorry.
Is Severance a drama? No, that's thriller. Never mind.
I think
it could be drama.
I would say Severance qualifies.
If he has Apple, that would be my number one to binge.
Especially since the next season is coming.
Yeah.
No, still a little bit away.
Still a few months away.
January, right?
Think so. All right, what's next?
Mega Red says saw Venom over the weekend. Oh boy, thought it was just bad. The Null thing reminds me of Amazing Spider-Man 2. Sinister Six setup that went nowhere. I think we'll see a Null movie the day we see Blade. Sorry, Ray. When are spoilers allowed for Venom?
I don't know, probably a few weeks. But you can't make a Null. Like Null versus what?
When they said we hope this is a launch pad for Null, I'm like, this is code for that's like sweet dreams.
Yeah, they said this is just the beginning of Null. We're just starting with Null. Like,
well, I know.
Null
and then
versus who?
Ever since Dwayne Johnson took over Warner Brothers too, right? It's just the beginning.
But I mean, like, what is Craven gonna fight Null?
Yeah.
Is Madam Web gonna fight Null? Because you're never getting Dakota Johnson back. So like, I just don't know where they're gonna go with it. Yeah, I don't think we're ever gonna see Null again. Let me rephrase. I think we will see a different iteration of Null someday, but I think the Null they set up in Venom, I don't think we ever see that again. Nah. I don't think we will. All right, what's next?
If that was a launch pad, that was failure to launch.
It's a failure to launch.
Benji the Husky says, as a steelbook collector, I enjoyed paying the standard $35. Now Disney Walmart are charging up to $65 for new steelbooks like Deadpool and Wolverine, while regular Blu-rays remain standard price. Are they intentionally getting greedy and pricing out collectors? I think it's just supply and demand, and they're not making as many, so they have to charge more.
You 100%. When you sell, let's say I'm making a product. I don't know. Well, Ray got me this cup here, okay?
There you go.
So let's say you make this product. If you know you're going to sell 1 million of these products and you can produce them on that level, that means you can make them less expensive. It won't cost you as much to make them. And you can actually price them lower because of your profit margin and your sheer volume. But if I want to make a certain amount of profit on these, and I know I'm only going to sell 100,000 of them as opposed to 1 million, then it's going to be more expensive for me to make them, and I'm going to have to pass that expense on to the consumers, right? So it's going to cost more for me to, even though it's the exact same thing, if I'm only going to move 100,000 units instead of 1 million, it's going to cost more. Nobody buys physical media anymore. Sorry. I mean, listen, Robert Meyer Burnett will be the first person to tell you that.
Yeah.
He has said that many times. I mean, obviously some people do, but I mean, compared to the amount of people who bought physical media 7, 8, 9, 10 years ago, most companies don't even make physical media players anymore.
Yeah.
4 of the top 5 companies that made physical media players no longer produce them. So if they're going to make these things and they still want to have the profit margin they do, then they're going to have to charge more for them.
Right.
Because maybe that product would have sold 1 million copies a few years ago. Well, today, maybe it'll sell 50,000. So yeah, it's an unfortunate thing. It's a terrible thing, but it does mean the price is going to be a little bit higher. All right, what's next?
G-Dog says, have y'all heard anything about the Chronicles of Narnia Netflix series?
Only that Greta Gerwig is mad that Netflix won't put it out on thing. It's not a series, it's a movie. Movies she's doing. Anyway, sorry, I didn't let you finish. Please continue.
I've seen bits and pieces of it, but nothing substantial. I think he says substantial for a while. I really hope they can succeed in doing all the books, especially the last.
They won't.
It's tough, man. They couldn't even do that with that last one. It's tough to get all through because your audience starts to drop, and there's so many films. You know.
I mean, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, as a huge C.S. Lewis fan, all right, I've read a lot of C.S. Lewis beyond Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. Mere Christianity, Screw Tape Letters. I mean, I studied C.S. Lewis. But The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, and I love The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, it's kind of like Dune to me, where I think the quality of the books just go down after the first one, right? And so I don't think they get through all of them. That's just my own personal opinion. But and right now Greta Gerwig isn't really happy. But I don't know. We'll see what happens. I mean, it's still early. They still have a lot of development to do, and we'll see what happens.
They're never going to do my favorite book of that, which was The Magician's Nephew, which was like the creation of the world and all of that stuff. Oh well. Anonymous says, sorry if this has already been addressed. It's both crazy and unfortunate that the worldwide gross for Deadpool and Wolverine could end up higher than the worldwide grosses of all other comic book movies this year combined. I don't know if that's sad. It's pretty triumphant.
I mean, look, yeah, but it's not like Deadpool and Wolverine made $500 million.
Yeah.
It made 1.3 billion, right? That's not bad. That's pretty phenomenal number. But yes, you are right that you would think if you had like 3 other comic book movies out there that they could equal that, right? And if they were all making like $400 to $500 million, they would, but they're not. I think Venom will get to the one Deadpool or one Black Adam. I don't think it'll make as much as, like, say, Venom, Let There Be Carnage did. But I mean, yeah, and that's a really good question. Is that more of a testament to how successful Deadpool and Wolverine is, or is it more of a testament to how unsuccessful the other ones have been? Oh, we'll find out. All right, what's next?
So that was it for tips. But we have some.
All right, let's take a couple of our viewer or member questions.
Yeah, just a few came in. Hey, John and crew, hearing Indiana Jones say babies are a-holes was something I thought I'd never hear. I love Shrinking. Damn good show. Thanks, Bring on the Filthy.
Guys, listen, I know so few of you are watching Shrinking. It is like right up there as one of the best things on TV. It's so good. And Harrison Ford hasn't been this good in decades. He hasn't been this good in decades. And that's not a knock on Harrison Ford. That is a compliment for how good he is in Shrinking. Guys, you got to watch it. It's so good. All right, what's next?
Amin says, going back to previous comment of mine from a few weeks ago, the Emmy nomination window is until May 31st. So shows like The Last of Us Season 2, Daredevil, hopefully even Andor Season 2 will be eligible and all be competing for Best Drama. Those combined with House of the Dragon, Penguin, Rings of Power, and hopefully Dune Prophecy, it's going to be stacked.
It could be. And listen, more and more like genre television's been working.
Right.
Like this year alone, you had like a Fallout was nominated for Best Drama Series. There was something else too that I forget. Well, House of the Dragon obviously was nominated for Best Drama Series. I mean, they just had a number of like, they're growing more and more. The genre stuff is getting recognized in the Emmys too. And this year, this next Emmys could be really stacked with it. All right, what's next?
Joe Howland says, hey, John and crew, how are you doing? My question is, after last night's episode of Penguin, do you think will happen to his mom and his friend? I mean, we'd have to put spoilers, but actually not really, but.
Well, I mean, I said before, even before last night's episode, so this isn't spoiling anything.
That's true.
I said a couple weeks ago, I think one of the big pivotal things that's going to happen to Penguin this season is the death of his mother. So I think his mom dies. And as far as Vic goes, the big popular theory surrounding him, and I do believe it, before last night has been, I believe he becomes Victor Zsasz. Maybe he will, maybe he won't, but that has been my general theory long before last night's episode. So, all right, what's next?
All right, we got one more. Kieran says, let me move it up here. Hey, everyone, I really think next year is a make or break for Marvel. The movies that are coming out look promising and could provide an opportunity to build like they did in phases 1 through 3. But at the same time, if they fall flat, I don't see how they get the same success going into this phase.
I 100% guarantee you next year is not make or break for Marvel. 100% guarantee it. 2026 and 2027 will be make or break for Marvel. Because here's the thing. No matter how good the movies that are coming out next year are, Captain America, let's say they're awesome, right? Captain America, Thunderbolts. What's the third one? There's a third one coming out next year.
You say Captain America, Thunderbolts?
Yeah, look up what that third one
Yeah.
is. Is Fantastic Four 2025?
Oh, yes, that's it.
It is 2025. Okay. So let's say they're all great. It won't mean anything if Doomsday and Secret Wars are bad.
Right.
If Doomsday and Secret Wars are bad, like your big climax events, if those are bad, I mean, that digs Marvel into a hole that I don't know they can come out of. Let's flip the coin. If Captain America, Thunderbolts, and Fantastic Four are all terrible, say they're all bad, and I don't think they will be, but let's say they are. Let's say they're all terrible. All three of them are terrible. If Doomsday and Secret Wars are awesome, it won't matter. So that's not to say that next year isn't important. I mean, you would rather ride good, positive momentum, especially coming off of Deadpool and Wolverine. You would rather ride good, positive momentum coming off of Cap, Thunderbolts, Fantastic Four, and have positive momentum going into Doomsday. But if you really want to talk about what's make or break, Doomsday and Secret Wars are going to be make or break. Because if Doomsday and Secret Wars are awesome, the last 3 years don't matter.
Especially with the bold move of Robert Downey Jr. coming
Yes,
back.
especially with Robert Downey Jr. coming back. But if they're great, even if 2025's movies are questionable, it won't matter. 2026 and 2027 will be make or break for Avengers or for Marvel, not 2025.
Right.
2025, it's important. You want them to be good. You want to build positive momentum. But if they're great, it doesn't save it from going into a hole if Doomsday and Secret Wars are bad. And if they're terrible, all will be forgiven if Doomsday and Secret Wars are great. So that's really the make or break. All right, guys. And that'll do it for today's installment of the John Campea Show podcast. Thank you so much for being here, making our little show part of your day. Big special thank you to all you guys who sent in questions. Number one, because you gave us great fun things to talk about. But number two, you supported this channel as you did it. And all of us involved with the show, thank you guys so very much for your support. Hey, for those of you guys who are also happen to be sports fans, the newest episode of Filthy Sports is going up later tonight. Just go and find Filthy Sports. That's our new YouTube channel on YouTube, and subscribe to it right now so you'll see it when the episode goes up. I want to thank the people in the room with me, Ray Ora.
Hey, see you tomorrow.
Jonathan Voico.
See you guys later.
My name's John Campea, and until next time, my friends, bye-bye.